guys, and welcome to PvP Live Tavern Takeover 3. I will be your host for this weekend. My name is Vi. This is Nathan and Isaac. We'll all be here for this weekend.
Hey guys, we're live in Frisco, Texas at the PvP Live headquarters. I'm so excited to be here. We're going to have an incredible event. One of the first big tournaments for GVG. It's going to be sick, man. There's so many great players. We have 16 players for you, single elimination format. It's going to be really, really crazy, and every game matters a lot.
You pretty much nailed it on the head. I mean, there's a ton of good players that came into this event, but that's not the only thing. It was actually an open bracket qualifier where 3 players fought through fields to make sure that they could qualify for an event like this, and so that they could play against some of these elite players that we have here today. I mean, you have Strifecrow, Kalento, Nyria, Faramir, Blackout, Chalky. I mean, just the whole field's stacked. Like, every single one of these games that you look at, they're going to be great games today.
For sure. One of the coolest parts about this tournament is that it was, a community event. We had community qualifiers. So locally from the Epic Gaming Lounge, we had 2 players qualify who were both actually friends that ended up going to the qualifier together, I guess, met in the qualifier, and both ended up getting through. So pretty awesome for them, and to have the chance to be able to kind of go up against these pros that you talked about and potentially, carve a name out for themselves here, maybe make a pro gaming career for themselves, that would be pretty sick.
Yeah. All right, so before we get into the first match, definitely need to go over the rules.
So it is going to be a pretty standard format here. It is going to be best of 5 starting out. And each player is going to have 3 decks. Every time you lose with a deck, the deck becomes locked. And then you are going to be moving forward onto your next deck. If all 3 decks do become locked, then that's going to mean you are eliminated from that round. You're going to be knocked out. So definitely very important right from the start, best of 5s, all the way up to the grand finals and the 3rd place match, which are going to be best of 7s. So it should be pretty fun. And I know there are some interesting differences here that you would like to talk about a little bit with the ban.
Yeah, of course. So a lot of Hearthstone forum bets in the past year. We've seen a lot of bans coming out, and it was at the time that it happened, it was sort of like a patchwork fix for some of the more powerful stuff that was happening. Of course, Miracle Rogue was basically in every single tournament, and so there needed to be a little bit more counterplay options at the same time keeping the format interesting. That's where bans came from. Scratch all that. GVG just came out. We have 120 some new cards that have been added to this format, and stuff has gotten absolutely crazy. At the Kingwin event last week, Strifecrow just tore the entire event up. He went 4-0 in the finals with Mech Mage, and I expect that sort of same trend to be continuing here. So for an event like this, there are no bans, and that means that encourages people to be like innovative with decks and try to come up with some new strategies. If they manage to do that, they get rewarded for that.
Yeah, I mean, if you can come up with an unbeatable deck, no one's going to be able to do anything about it. There's no just kind of, if you can come up with something that people can't beat, normally in tournaments, if you see something in the first round, you're like, whoa, I don't want to fight that. You just ban it out in the second round, but you don't have that option here. So the innovative players, like you talked about, players that are able to come up with these new decks early on in the GVG expansion are going to have a huge advantage. So I'm definitely excited to see some new stuff today. Hopefully we're going to see some crazy new decks that I can steal and use on the ladder.
That's certainly something I'm looking forward to. And something else I'm looking forward to is just, again, the matches that we have here. The bracket is just absolutely stacked at every single corner. When you start to look at it, where do you even pick a favorite from what's going on? Dart versus Kit Kats, Just Saiyan versus 6-0, Kalento versus Faramir, Strifecrow versus Nyria, Ecop versus Blackout, Alchemixt versus Pini, D2 versus Chalky, and Elefante versus Backspace. I mean, we have guys here who have been top 16 in both their regions. Nyria was the number 2 seed going into EU. Kalento was the number 1 seed. He's been one of the most dominant players in Hearthstone to date. And then you also just have the consistent players who have been out there. Faramir lately has just been on an absolute tear. Strifecrow, of course, you can never discount that guy from any event. And then Alchemixt, this guy hasn't put up a lot of tournament invites lately, but every single one that he's been at, he's had extremely strong performances. I mean, where do you even begin to pick the guy who you think's going to win from here?
I don't know, man. I always have to go back to my man Strifecrow. I love Strifecrow. He's such a nice guy. He's been an amazing gamer across multiple platforms, across Warcraft to Starcraft and now Hearthstone, and he just took down the Kingwin tournament. Looked so strong there. So I think it's like, for me, I'm looking at Strifecrow a bit, but it's also cool to see some of these other names. We have Dart and Just Saiyan from the local qualifiers, Elefant from the global qualifier as well. So definitely interesting to see how those guys are going to do. And Dart and Just Saiyan are also in the same portion of the bracket. So if they win their first rounds, they'd be fighting again in the second round, which would be pretty incredible to go from just a couple of guys playing Hearthstone to potentially meeting in a major tournament.
That's definitely a big deal.
Yeah.
If I had to pick someone that was really going to come into this event and expect to put up just a performance that's kind of beyond what you would expect from any single player, I'm looking at 6-0. This guy has just been on fire lately. He was number 1 on NA ladder multiple times. Him and Broodstars were actually fighting for the top spot there. He's top 10 on Ghosted Gamers rankings. He's just like, he basically, from what I understand, created the new style of Zoo decks where you use Implosion to kind of create a board presence and really start to swing things again. And like that, he was the first person I saw use it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you've done it, 6-0, you genius. And so, like, for him, he's always played a lot of Zoo, and he's really fantastic with it. And to see him innovating right out of the gates with it, really no surprise, and I expect that trend to continue.
And with that, I think we're pretty much ready to hop into this first game, which is going to be Alchemixt versus Pini. So it should be a pretty exciting one. You mentioned Alchemixt, but Pini, not to be overshadowed as well, definitely a strong competitor. It's going to be very exciting to see how these two guys are going to do.
Yeah, I mean, he just got second place at Heroes of Cards to Faramir, of course, who Faramir is also playing in this tournament. Yeah. Alchemist, I would definitely say, is the favorite going into this match, but this is Hearthstone, man. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and I mean, Pini coming off that second place finish, it's the strongest result of his Hearthstone career, so maybe going to be able to use that, gain some momentum going forward.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead. We are going to jump into our first match, Alchemist versus Pini.
All right, game 1 has already been underway, and Alchemist starting out with Zoo. This is something else that he's played a lot of in the past. I talked a lot about how he's been such a prominent Control Warrior player, but he mixes one of the reasons he plays Control Warrior so much is because he's actually such an aggressive player too. He kind of has that curveball in his lineup. So when I see him playing Zoo right here, this isn't really a surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean, Power Overwhelming in there. Forgive me, I can't remember the name of the card because it wasn't very common last. But the card that does sacrifice the minions beside it, if you can use,
Void Terror.
Void Terror, yeah, of course. So I'm assuming we might see some Void Terrors in there. I've actually been seeing some Void Terror decks with Power Overwhelming on ladder that have seemed pretty strong.
I think it's definitely a possibility. Right now, I would expect anyone who's been playing really close attention to be playing a build very similar to what 6-0 has been playing. Again, Implosion is it's such a big swing card.
How do you feel about the Sea Giant?
Well, this is another 6-0
with Implosion.
He likes to play Sea Giant in these decks as sort of like an effective third 5 drop, and then sometimes you get it out earlier. It can just create really big swing turns. It's just one of those cards that adds a lot of pressure. And on the other side of the board, of course, Pini. This is one of those handlock decks that just it's pretty much straightforward. It's like the handlock it's always been. You're trying to get some Mountain Giants. You have a couple more tools with things like Antique Healbot and of course Dark Bomb. But you really lost the 0-cost Soulfire, which is a pretty big price to pay in that deck.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, he is kind of just holding on to that. The Shadow Flame he has it obviously available. Like, how do you feel about holding on to the Iron Beak versus using that to kind of get aggressive a little bit with Ancient Watcher? Do you think it's something that you need to do just to hold on to it for your Shadow Flame?
It's kind of tough to say. I mean, I would like to see this Ancient Watcher sit here for Shadow Flame. And it's accomplishing 2 goals, of course, because he has Mountain Giant in his hand. So he's trying to make sure that he can ramp up to this point. Obviously, a very big goal that he has in mind. But just looking at Alchemist's hand, when you see your opponent play turn 2 Ancient Watcher and then turn 3 their life tap, what are you thinking about?
Like, I mean, I'm worrying about Shadow Flame for sure. Yeah. But, I mean, at some point, you do have to start clearing these things out. And, I mean, it may be able to accomplish the same thing as Alchemist is looking like he's going to start to take it out with the Implosion and see how much damage he gets here. He rolls a 2. So definitely not going to be the happiest about that, but he is going to clear it out. And honestly, pretty effective. Like, the Implosion is going to allow him to do that pretty easily. He has to trade an Ooze. Even with the low roll, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, this is a pretty fantastic spot for him, of course. This is the point in the game where he's got to be mindful of Molten Giants. Like, 15 life is sort of that magic number where when you have Handlock at, they can't really get a lot of big swing turns with Molten Giants. So, this is really kind of some sketchy waters he's got to tread here and make sure he balances his turn correctly. That's something that's certainly going to go through his mind. It looks really easy to just kind of jam everything down and go for your opponent's face here. But the thing that he's worried about is something like Molten Giant Shadow Flame or Molten Giant and some taunts.
How do you feel about a Dark Iron Dwarf plus Power Overwhelming on the Abusive Sergeant to take out the 8/8? What do you think about that versus the Sea Giant? I mean, like, if you drop the Sea Giant, it's probably just getting traded in. And if you do it this way, you have the 4/4 body down. You still have your Sea Giant in hand. So I kind of like the Dark Iron Dwarf plus the Power Overwhelming more. I mean, do you agree?
It looks like that's a really strong line of play. And the other reason, of course, still is even if the Mountain Giant doesn't get traded in, he's still got to be worried about Shadow Flame.
Yeah, exactly.
So he can squeeze in a few extra points of damage and get the Sea Giant down. But what it costs is that he's actually going to use Abusive Sergeant here. So not really too worried about trading down his board, and sort of the utility that he gets in trade-off for this is that he gets to keep his Power Overwhelming. So this is 4 extra points of damage that he does have access to, as opposed to having to try to use what was on the board to go forward.
Yep, and he still has to have the ability to drop the Sea Giant here, and I'm guessing that's going to be the case.
Yeah, this is really no question, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at this point, I feel like, okay, so he is actually playing pretty control-ish, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he is actually clearing the board and making sure there's not, like, an easy Shadow Flame turn or anything like that. And I think it's really the right choice in this position. I mean, he has such strong board control. It's not like he only has these small little minions out there. He's sitting with an 8/8 and a 4/4 body down on the board. And Pini is kind of staring down the barrel of a shotgun right now. He's in a bit of a rough spot.
Yeah, this is sort of one of the benefits you get of being in a zoo position is Alchemixt really making use of this information that Soulfire are really no longer in these handlock decks.
Yeah.
So typically, I think you would try to spread out your damage a little bit more and make sure you keep a board presence. But he can be pretty confident Soulfire just, frankly, isn't in that list. So when he keeps his 4/4 alive instead of his smaller minions, it makes a big difference. I don't think he suspects Mortal Coil from his opponent because he probably would have seen it at this point. Mm-hmm. So I think this is just really heads-up play here from Alchemixt.
And the Ruby and Egg plus the Power Overwhelming is really kind of the combo that you want. That's kind of pretty ideal there. And
yeah, it looks to me like this is just straight up lethal.
Oh yeah, it is. You're right. With the Power Overwhelm coming in, it is going to be the game. Holy
that 4 extra damage that he chose to keep early on and uses Abusive Sergeant and redevelop his board. Like that was a really big difference in that game. I mean, you got to give credit to Alchemixt here. You know, he just had a pretty decent curve the whole way through. Him keeping that extra 4 damage ensured that he could get lethal on the last turn.
Yeah, no, it was actually really, really well played. And it's kind of impressive just how he maintained board control the entire way through. He wasn't even just like going face every turn, which is kind of the stereotypical Zoom mindset or whatever, right? But I mean, he maintained board control. He had full control of the game, start to finish, and really that deck looked extremely strong. And you talked about his draws weren't even that great, and on the Implosion he rolled a 2. He rolled the lowest roll. It's not like he really had insane luck that game, but the deck looks incredibly strong. And it's honestly not one I've fought yet on ladder, but it looks pretty incredible.
It's one of the reasons why 6-0's been doing so good. That's basically everything that you saw there was. That's basically like the 6-0 original creation, as far as I've seen.
Do you think that if he had Shadow Flame, that would have made a difference early on?
A Shadow Flame definitely could have made a difference there, but at what cost is it coming? Because at the point when he's developed his Ancient Watcher and then he's chosen the Life Tap on turn 3, he's really committed to this Mountain Giant plan. So he had access to Dark Bomb. He had access to Shadow Flame. These are options he chose to forego. So it's two very different stances. And it's hard to really say one way or the other. Like, had he drawn a Hellfire I think would have been a great option. But, Shadow Flame, you are using 2 cards for it. Yeah. You are now foregoing your Mountain Giant
turn. The only turn he actually had a chance, he would have had to coin it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he didn't even ever have a turn because everything was getting cleared off. So, I mean, he could have turned 3 Shadow Flamed on the Ancient Watcher with the coin Shadow Flame, but then, he wouldn't have been able to Mountain Giant, like you said. So it's, like, pretty tough, honestly, there. Like, I didn't really see any big mistakes from him. It just seemed like
it's just sort of the difference of the way Soulfire and Dark Bomb are going to work. But game 2 is going to get underway, and Pini probably going to need to get a turnaround here. And Warrior, likely a good place it could start. Now, something that changed about the dynamic of this matchup is that Implosion has been included in these Zoo decks. And Warrior, it's not going to be playing a ton of minions for his opponent to actually Implosion. So in this matchup, Implosion very often kind of ends up being an almost dead card for a long period of time until you can find some utilization out of it. Even then, though, you're still staring down potentially Whirlwinds, Unstable Ghouls, Explosive Sheeps, all kinds of stuff to make sure these boards get swept out.
Now, do you think that there will be Void Terrors in this? I mean, is there Void Terrors in 6-0's Zoo deck? Because that's like every time I've seen Power Overwhelming on ladder lately, that's what it's been with, but I haven't actually seen this variation of the deck. So does that usually include a Void Terror?
In my experience seeing it, it doesn't. And the reason is just because Implosion is giving you so much on the board.
Yeah, there's no need.
Like that, it basically is the extra body that you need for the swing turns. So you can just use one of the tokens to use the Power Overwhelming on. You don't really lose anything from it because as far as you're concerned, these are expendable creatures. And of course, Alchemixt here. Now, this is the start where things get really scary when they have Undertaker into Leper Gnome. Like, this is a big deal for Pini, and like if he doesn't get this board stabilized, this game's going to swing way out of control fast.
And he's considering the Armor Smith, and to me, dropping the Armor Smith is kind of saying that he's probably going to go face and trying to use the Cruel Task for a trade with the Undertaker next turn, something like that. I mean, how do you feel about Armor Smith versus just taking the free trade with the Cruel Taskmaster right now?
Well, it's kind of a tough tourney. If you run Cruel Taskmaster out here, it is directly challenged. It's going to be a 1-for-1 at the end of the day, but Armor Smith is certainly something you want to try to develop. But at the same token, if he's looking at Abusive Sergeant on the other side of the board, this Armor Smith's going to bite the dust.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely something he has to be very worried about. And he is going to be able to get that free trade down. Has the Direwolf Alpha Knife Juggler in hand as well. Yeah. I'm guessing he's probably just going to develop the Juggler. Yeah. Especially with the ability, like Implosion and Knife Juggler is also really nice synergy as well.
With Acolyte of Pain, I don't know if Acolyte of Pain is really the card you're looking for right now. Yeah, Shield Slam seems like a pretty reasonable response. This is one of those turns where you're like, you shield slam because you got a shield slam, but you're not happy about it. Like now you have one less shield slam to potentially use on a Doom Guard. Like say you pick up a shield block or something, and it's just you're not really getting anywhere by doing this. You're just responding to your opponent's board.
And this is something we've actually been talking about a lot lately. When when I've been playing, I've been asking Admiral for some advice and stuff. And one of the things that we've been kind of talking about is just how dead the Warrior decks can look sometimes when they don't have Fiery War Axe in their opening hand, and how strong they do look when they do. And this is one of those games where, I mean, he has 2 Death Spites, but is set back quite a bit by not having the Fiery War Axe in the opening hand. It makes a really big difference.
This game, he ended up not being set back too much. Again, Implosion and Doom Guard in hand already, so these are 2 cards that are not contributing anything. And this Haunted Creeper came out before this Death Spite did, so the Death Rattle is going to trigger after the Haunted Creeper's dead on the Death Spite. So the tokens are going to get swept out should he choose to kill that Haunted Creeper. So that's a pretty big deal going forward. Also, the Cruel Taskmaster, able to answer half of the Undertaker challenge that was presented there. So Alchemist, he's put together a little bit of damage here, but this board, oh my gosh, and a second Armorsmith picked up from Pini. He's about to start to gain really massive
with the
control
Acolyte, he's going to be able to get the draw, clear out the tokens, and gain a couple armor here. So really nice turn there, honestly, for Pini. And, I mean, you talked about the start not really being able to get that much done for Alchemist, but he did kind of have the dream turn 1, and, his draw hasn't been that bad, but it is looking a little bit rough. And, I mean, kind of now, as Pini, Pini's looking like he's pretty comfortable. The Implosion looks like that is going to be the choice, and I mean, he's going to go for the Armorsmith. He definitely wants to roll at least a 3 here. And he will get it.
Wow,
so,
big roll too.
Yeah, so 60. I mean, he had 66% chance to get that, and he's going to be able to clear it out and drop the Undertaker as well. It looks like, but still, I mean, with a second Death Spite in hand, that's something that can deal with the imps pretty easily as well. And I think it probably is just going to be Death Spite plus an Armorsmith. Is he going to decide to drop that, or maybe? Yeah, he probably will.
Definitely going to drop that. So, something that's really interesting to note from Penny's deck is this isn't really the same shell that I've been seeing from Warrior decks. He's got Iron Juggernaut and he's got Bouncing Blades in here. Harrison and Ragnaros, pretty typical to see those in a deck.
Yeah, Iron Juggernaut I was seeing the first couple days a lot, but then everyone kind of phased it out, replaced it with like Dr. Boom and things like that.
Yeah.
And Bouncing Blades I just plain haven't really seen.
Yeah, I think both these cards are really more focused on control-oriented lineups, because Bouncing Blades,
it's so good against handlock and things like that.
Right, if there's only 1 minion on the board, Bouncing Blades is going to kill it, regardless of how big it is or not. And then Iron Juggernaut works really well in the fatigue battles. But call me crazy, I don't think this Zoo versus Warriors going to go to fatigue this game. And wow, I'll tell you what, Alchemist is in a really rough spot. He wants to chew through the second Armorsmith. His whole board's about to get swept out to this Death Spite. Dark Iron Dwarf's already going to get challenged by it, and your opponent's at 22 health. Like, where do you put together the winning play here?
I mean, honestly, it's looking like such a brutal position, because the thing is, it's like you said, if you drop the Dark Iron Dwarf, that's just going to die plus the Death Rattle. So he feels like he has to Doom Guard. I think that's the right choice, because really, the Dark Iron Dwarf is just a dead card if you play it into that. So I feel like this was the right choice, but it's definitely desperation time for Alchemist. And I mean, with...
Yeah, this is a brutal turn too. This Bouncing Blades, just as we were talking about, this is about to sweep out this 6 health Doom Guard. Penny sees it right away too. Not only that, but he picks up 4 extra damage because he doesn't actually have to attack this Doom Guard.
Yeah, he can just go face.
It looks like he's thinking about something else though.
He may be thinking about trying to drop the Sylvanas or something like that. But I mean, I think that the Bouncing Blades is definitely the right choice, especially no cards in your opponent's hand.
This is the turn that he's looking for to make sure he gets a recovery. Look at that, 6 points of damage from 3 mana.
Yeah. Brutal, man.
That's so good.
Yeah.
All right, Alchemist, going to need a pair of good ones. That's a bad one to start with. Oh, gosh, those are 2 ugly ones to get. But, Penny's hand is really good, but this Ragnaros could be a liability. I expect him to drop something like Sylvanas or Harrison.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to. He doesn't want to Ragnaros the egg. Yeah. That would be not so good.
No, you just yellow it, man. Don't just ignore it. Just jam it out there. 8 points of damage? How could you pass that up?
Yeah. Well,
Echoing Ooze. Alchemist needs something right here. Harvest Golem's not quite it. Sylvanas isn't really like a big problem on this kind of board. You're not worried about the Death Rattle, but it is a 5/5 body.
Yeah, and I mean, the problem is more just the further into the game you get, the clock is ticking. Yeah. Like, it's so dangerous in the late game against Warriors. Their hand is going to be full of legendaries. Every turn they get to play another one. Slam is honestly, it's not really that helpful here. I mean, do you think we're just going to see like the Iron Juggernaut come down? He's gonna slam something up.
I think. I thought he was going to play Harrison and armor up. I think it's something he was thinking about, but Iron Juggernaut's going to be the play, and that is a potential 10 damage that Alchemist can be taking our life. Do life traps get scary here when you have the
A
burrowing bite in your deck?
A little bit, man. I mean, the thing is, but it's not like you have a choice. You have to, he knows he has to end the game, right? It's like, I mean, he has to go for it. Flame Imp is just about the worst card.
He's picked up both Nerubian eggs
Yeah.
after the initial onslaught has concluded at this point. He has very few buffs left in his deck. He's got Defender of Argus, a power overwhelming, of course, but he's staring down 11 points of damage on the board, too. Like, this might be one of those times where Pini can actually, he can size up the board and be like, you know what, my opponent's not going to be able to deal me 15 damage next turn. I can just put the pressure on. He's got 11 points of damage on the board right now.
Yeah, he does have a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And he does have a Shield Slam as well. So, I mean, you can take out the Imp, and then I think you just go face.
Oh, yeah. This is a turn where you definitely should be... Wow, he's going to choose... It looks like he chose to attack a minion here.
Okay.
Wow, he attacks 2 minions instead.
Just really wants to play it safe, man, I guess. Yeah, but I just don't I don't see where the damage was going to come from. Now this is honestly pretty nice. He can trigger... Like, do you think you trigger the Death Rattle here, or do you think...
I think you gotta hope that this Sylvanas just steals
the other egg.
Yeah. Or the ooze of the egg. So he's gonna go 1 to face. This is a pretty big steal right now.
Oh.
Gets a 2-1 off of it.
Okay.
So not like the worst situation in the world.
But still, I mean, he has to clear something, right? Like, I mean, look at his HP. There's so many ways that he could take damage here. He still has the 10 damage mine in his deck somewhere in there. I mean, the 7 damage sitting on the board. He's at 13 HP. Cruel Task is going to be some additional damage as well.
Execute, Taskmaster, and Ragnaros.
Yeah.
Take your pick.
Yeah, man.
This has been a brutal game.
I feel like honestly, you just Cruel Task the Doomguard, drop Rag, and see what happens.
That's like one of the ways you could lose. You're like, no, you got to go for it, man.
No. Yeah.
You got to live the dream.
Exactly.
Wow,
he's going for it, man. He's my kind of guy. This is love player. Go for the Rag, dude. Just embrace the YOLO.
Maybe having some second thoughts about this decision.
Okay, so he's going to
execute probably a safer. This is also it's more consistent with his line of play so far as well, where he's wanted to choke out all of his opponent's decisions throughout the course of the game. And now that Alchemixt is left with a single point of damage, this is where the onslaught begins.
This is the much more intelligent play, but I mean, he has 8 HP. Ragnar steals 8 damage.
Oh, Implosion's picked up. Implosion plus Sea Giant could really swing this game back around.
Yeah, if he rolls a 4, that would be huge. Let's see how the luck is going to.
Oh, he gets a 2.
Oh no, he can't actually clear it out, and that is going to be the end of the game. And he needed to roll at least a 3 there to have a chance of staying alive. He's going to roll low.
That's so brutal.
Well played.
One of his implosions, was it both of his implosions this game rolled low?
He rolled no. In his last game, he rolled a 2. This game, he rolled a 4 and then a 2.
So still pretty much on average. There, but wow.
Gotta love that RNG right there.
Alchemixt, I'm certain, is not loving it right now. But I want to talk a lot about the turn where Pini really could have turned up the heat. He had 11 points of damage on the board. Alchemixt was at 15. And when you put 11 points of damage in your opponent's face, and they have, was it 6 points of damage on the board? He's going to draw 11 more damage.
Yeah, 6 points of damage. We know there's probably no Soulfires in the deck anymore. I mean, 1 Doomguard had already been played. There's still so I mean, it's not really a huge amount of threat, but still, I mean, he played it out safe. It's the way he felt comfortable playing it. He's able to secure a second game, and Alchemixt had a lot of trouble really kind of getting things going early that game. He talked about having Implosion and Doomguard in hand in the opening hand. Definitely kind of slowed him down a bit. But, I mean, do you think there was anything he really could have done differently there?
It really just comes down to, that's the kind of a cost of building your deck that way. Is when you have Implosions in your deck, you are sacrificing something against the control decks. You don't. It's one less actual threat that you have because you've dedicated it to this swing card.
Which is something that has been happening in GVG anyways. There's a lot of different cards that are like that.
A lot of people have been kind of focusing on using swing cards, and I can't blame them. When the format's kind of up in the air, I would expect people to just be playing more minions, and as a result of that, you want to be fighting them for the board harder with minion swinging style cards. Blast Mage, Keeper of the Grove, Implosion, all those cards are kind of working in the same game plan.
Even some of the new minions are honestly can have the capability. I mean, we're talking about Pilot Shredder and things like that, right? It can be pretty different, depending on what Death Rattle is.
All right, well, let's get to game 3.
All right, game 3 underway. Take a look at these hands. There's already 3 Shield Maidens that have been drawn. There's going to be some fireworks this game.
Yeah, no kidding. Having the shield block on early on is relatively nice as well. Having that ability, because shield block does deal very well. Shield block, if you can get the shield slam as well, deals very well with shield maidens and things like that. And I mean, in my experience seeing this matchup, it's pretty common for it to go to fatigue. And I mean, with that many shield maidens and stuff in hand, what are the kind of things that in a game like this you have to take into consideration, knowing that there is a pretty high chance that it could go to fatigue? Do you play it a little bit differently? Do you feel like you should be the one more reacting to your opponent rather than taking the initiative?
That's going to depend on kind of how the pan-out is, because one of the things that's so important is the order of the late-game legendaries that get played. Ideally, you want to play Alchemixt before you have to play Ragnaros or Grommash.
Yeah, of course.
And then ideally you have Ragnaros either apply a ton of pressure either on the leverage of being able to shred armor or hit a big minion, and then of course having Grommash to finish it up. You don't always get that draw though, so we kind of have to make do with what you have. But yeah, responding is something you want to be doing, but you also need to keep armor in check to make sure that you minimize the impact of Shield Slam, and then it also depends on your legendary suite. Some people run Dr. Boom. It's been very common so far in a lot of decks we've seen. Some people are running like Sneed's Old Shredder in this format, and so in a grindy warrior matchup, Sneed's Old Shredder summoning another legendary can be that can be crippling. So depending on when it ends up grabbing, so something that they're going to both be focusing on is how to minimize the impact from their opponent while trying to kind of get a big shield, so that way Alchemixt doesn't have a game-breaking effect.
Definitely, and I mean Sneed's Old Shredder definitely can have insane amounts of value, and being able to guarantee the double draw now with the death rattle from his opponent, plus he already gets the 1 damage in with the Taskmaster, is pretty nice, and getting those extra card draws has to feel pretty good early on here for Alchemixt.
Again, making sure to keep armor in check too. You want to just basically, anytime you have an opportunity to chip away at it, you want to make sure that it's definitely there. Pretty solid response though.
Yeah, Armor Smith, Acolyte.
Speaking of getting double draws.
Yep. He's going to be able to get some armor off of that. He's going to be able to clear it out as well. X2 can be drawn here for Alchemixt. And let's see what the draw is for Pini. Going to pick up a shield block for himself. And, I mean, having double Shield Maiden in hand, definitely quite nice. Iron Juggernaut going to be played here by Alchemixt. And we talked about how that wasn't as common anymore, but it's in both the Warriors decks.
Yeah, both of these guys, when I see Iron Juggernaut, in my mind, I see that they anticipate control decks.
Yeah.
That's what that tells me. And I would be just shocked to see not the Shield Maiden come out here. Like Iron Juggernaut, again, it's a card that you want to use to fight the fatigue battle. So in this matchup, you can drop it on turn 6, but more so what you're looking for, again, is it's another tool that can control armor. Yeah, and at the same time, it's going to punish your opponent when they draw it. So this is like a post-Alchemixt kind of card. Because as you said, you're anticipating going into fatigue this matchup. Harrison Jones, though, this is another one of the swing cards. Just ways to fight for the board is what's really important in this. So Alchemixt definitely has a life advantage right now, but he is kind of one turn behind. Like Pini has sort of the value of being able to correctly respond to what's happening on the board here. And with something like Harrison Jones in his hand, he's going to be really able to apply a lot of pressure.
Definitely. I mean, we are sitting on turn 7 here right now for Alchemixt, and I mean, you talk about not really wanting to drop Iron Juggernaut super early if you don't have to, but at the same time, it doesn't really look like he has a lot of plays here. He could just drop a shield block, kind of get the extra draw and things like that. But you're talking about wanting to continually keep the armor off, kind of fight for the board. Do you think this is an Iron Juggernaut turn, or do you think you simply just are going to shield block up and see what you get?
It's kind of. I personally would like to see the shield block happen here, because he needs to just be putting together like a bigger suite of threats. Like he's got 2 executes in his hand. He doesn't. In my mind, it doesn't look like he has a lot of pressure that's being applied against him. So when you've got 2 executes, you have a lot of time to make sure that you can make up for sort of this ground that you're losing on turn 7 here.
The golden Iron Juggernaut looks so sick, by the way. Like holy.
Makes a golden burrowing mine too.
Well, we'll see when he's going to draw it.
Wow, Pini draws Iron Juggernaut right afterwards. He doesn't have a way to actually directly answer this Iron Juggernaut, though. This is a problem. I think that Alchemixt was expecting this Iron Juggernaut to get answered a lot of times.
Yeah.
Pini actually doesn't have a direct way to kill it unless he wants to use his axe and 2 Cruel Taskmasters to pick this off.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he might just drop a Shield Maiden here. Use that to try to kind of answer it. He could obviously shield block up, see if he draws an execute or something. And it looks like that is going to be his play. We'll see what he's going to draw into here. He does draw the execute, so the Cruel Task plus the execute definitely going to work out for him there. And seeing that come off the top has got to be a little bit annoying for Alchemixt. But you never know if he has another one in his hand and he's just kind of messing with you.
So yeah, this is sort of like a very similar spot that Alchemixt was in last turn, where it's like he doesn't necessarily have a great threat. He picks up Harrison Jones for the weapon, though. He might want to hang on to this for something like Gorehowl, but right now, when I look at his hand, does he have the liberty to just continue to wait that long? Like, of course, he's got a lot of life. that's not his concern. His concern is actually losing control of the board to like so many legendaries that are going to be piled out here.
He can obviously answer this pretty easily. He has Fiery Warhawks in hand, but Harrison Jones, I think, is a nice play here. Fits the curve. Going to be able to pick himself a draw. And pick up Garomash is pretty nice here as well.
Yeah.
And he has a couple pieces of the combo. Definitely wants to get that Alexstrasza out, though, to really be able to put on the pressure. And looks like Iron Juggernaut perhaps going to come down. He's going to think about Shield Slam, though. And it is going to be a Shield Slam with the Shield Maiden.
He can also Cruel Taskmaster his own Cruel Taskmaster here.
Trade. Yeah,
like
I actually like that better.
That's a much better. I think it's a much better use of resources. Good heads up. We saw he had thumbed over the Shield Slam for a minute there. It's something that's really important too. Is you don't want to burn through your turns. Like you have a lot of time to play. You should be thinking about what's going on. I mean, because there's just so many options these players have, like how to proceed forward, how to make sure they apply pressure, etc. Making a mistake in this kind of matchup is something you can't afford.
Yeah. Alchemixt here now. I mean, he has the Cruel Task execute for the Shield Maiden if he does decide to do that. He could just do that, weapon up, kill the 2/2, shield block. I mean, I don't feel like he's gonna want to drop Rag or anything like that this turn. So, I mean, I kind of feel like it has to be that, like just Cruel Task, execute, kill the 2/2 off with a weapon. You can shield block up as well.
Definitely a tough turn. All that matters right now is like what he's thinking about. Like, he has so many different routes to play. Like, is he concerned more with just trying to get a lot of extreme value out of stuff? Is he trying to? Is he still hunting for Alexstrasza before he wants to unleash these legendaries? That's sort of what this game plan looks like to me.
Yeah. So he's really valuing the executes a lot here. He'd rather just. Yeah. I mean, his armor value is really high, and I think that's smart. Being able to hold on to that for like an Alexstrasza or a Ragnaros or a Gromosh, something like that. That's going to be more threatening. Definitely makes a lot of sense. But the Harrison Jones to answer
that belongs
really nice
in a museum. Back-to-back Harrison Jones when we played this game. Here's something I'm curious about now. At this point in the game, are you worried about the number of cards that are in your deck? Like, are you looking at Acolyte and thinking maybe that this is like, is it getting to the point where you are concerned with the number of cards you're going to draw?
I think it has to be a little bit. The Alexstrasza going to be drawn there for Alchemist, though, which is definitely huge. But you can see Alchemist actually was mousing over both of each other's decks a few times there, starting to count cards. And he is obviously starting to take that into consideration, trying to think, when do I have to start getting a little bit worried about this?
Gosh, this is tough. See, now this is also sort of a unique position because Ragnaros can be used here to like start to apply armor shred.
Yeah.
It's not actually going to touch your opponent's life total, so you're not worried about losing value from Alexstrasza if Ragnaros stays on the board for 2 turns. You're just getting pure armor shred.
Yep.
So his plan here, it's tough to really say what he's trying to do exactly because he has a lot of different ways he can take this. Obviously, he wants to keep his Alexstrasza safe, so he's trying to keep minions off the board. But at the same time, he's worried about Shield Slam, so he doesn't want to just throw an Alexstrasza or Ragnaros out there and have them both just die.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, now I think it's probably going to be a Shield Slam since he didn't want to play the Rag last turn. I mean, even though it is a little bit gross with the Lothab, I feel like you kind of have to just Shield Slam anyway. Take out the Lothab. Because I mean, if he wasn't going to play Ragnaros last turn, I don't think he's going to play it this turn. So I think this is really just you take out the Armor Smith, you Shield Slam the Lothab.
It's a tough turn because, again, something he's looking for is he wants to play Alexstrasza and then also play a swing card in the same turn.
Yeah, but it's just not really. Yeah, it's not in the cards for him right now.
The cards for him, yeah. Oh gosh, you're so smart.
But yeah, I mean, whoa. Think of Brawl. Wow, that is not what I saw.
Honestly, Brawl is not that bad of an option. 10 mana, it's a little bit costly, but this
really
does
nice,
deal
actually.
8 effective damage right here. I think that's a pretty solid spot to be in.
Yeah.
He still has Shield Slam to make sure that he can play Alexstrasza and swing the board back in his favor.
If the Lothab came out, I think he would have been kicking himself a bit, but it did definitely work out very well for him.
Now he's got a mine in his deck. Oh my gosh, if this gets drawn, all his armor's going to get shredded. That Shield Slam's going to be useless.
Yeah. Let's see if it is. No, not just yet.
It makes me so nervous to see that position where it's just like, if he draws it, he just loses the Shield Slam, basically.
And that Brawl last turn setting him up so nicely. So taking a risk, it's really going to pay off now. He does draw the Burrowing Mind.
10 armor gets shredded. Not that big of a difference here because he has 24 armor going into the turn. But Big Game Hunter really going to start to apply some pressure here.
Definitely, and he has a shield maiden to follow it up. But I mean, Pini is sitting here, and he really just has not drawn the pieces of the puzzle yet. I mean, hasn't drawn his Alchemixt, hasn't drawn his Gromosh, hasn't drawn a Ragnaros or anything like that. And Alchemixt is looking pretty darn good here.
Yes, seems like that Pini's in really good shape this game, despite that though. He's had a lot of consistent pressure. He's allocated his removal to the right spots. Big game hunter being able to take out a minion is pretty huge. Ragnaros
no kidding.
wants to hit that 5/5. He gets that roll.
Alchemixt is honestly, he's got the two kind of 1 and 3 rolls this game. And
here comes the steal though.
Oh god,
Sylvanas shield slam. Oh my gosh, this is such bad news for Alchemixt.
Oh, brutal.
Oh my gosh, and up to 21 armor even after drawing the Burrowing
Vine. God, that's so brutal, man.
Yeah, there goes all of Alchemix's armor. He doesn't have any shield slams though, so that's not the worst thing in the world. He needs to pick up a way to deal with this Ragnaros right now though. He needs a point of damage.
He's not going to get it just yet. He's going to have to drop the Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, flood his board.
And
I mean, Ragnaros.
The Gromosh has been drawn now for Pini, and if he's going to be able to get the Alchemixt pretty soon here, there's not that many more cards left in the deck. We'll see if he just decides to shield block up here. I mean, he
7 cards in Pini's exit and 9 cards in Alchemixt right now.
Yeah. Now, I mean, do you feel like with that much armor, are you really going to hold on to that second shield slam? This is something I was kind of curious if he's going to decide to use this on the Belcher, because it is pretty nice to be able to get rid of that this turn, but at the same time, holding on to it for a later threat could be pretty nice as well.
Is he going to use Gromosh if he does that?
I don't know. I mean, you definitely could drop the Gromosh.
Something he's thinking about for sure. If he plays the shield slam first,
Alchemist would be pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's double X2 sitting in his hand right now.
If he's using shield slam first, he almost certainly is going to Gromosh this turn.
It's looking like he. Let's see. Yep, it is going to be the Gromosh coming down. So you called it, and he is actually going to clear. So it's going to be just probably a double execute turn, honestly, for Alchemixt.
He's got to find a way to deal with the Ragnaros, though. I think he's got to leave the 4/1 there. And save one of these.
Yeah, you're right.
For
Yeah, he
Ragnaros.
does. Crush.
Picks up Crush.
Oh.
Wow.
What a draw, man. Gonna be able to crush, execute.
I will crush you.
That is brutal. What a draw off the top. And actually, he's still going to decide to hold on to the second execute. So, this is definitely, man, pushing it to the fatigue. And wow, now the Alexstrasza comes up.
Picked up from Alexstrasza, though. And still the pressure is on Alchemist. He needs to find a way to deal with this Alexstrasza. And Dr. Boom, not quite going to be it.
No.
He's facing down 12 points of damage, and he can potentially go up to 18 here. How afraid of a card like Gorehowl are you?
I think you're really afraid, man. I mean, Dr. Boom is pretty scary, but at the same time, I mean, dropping your Gromosh to clear feels really horrible as well, right? So it's he's going to have to use the second execute. Definitely something he wanted to hold on to for the Alexstrasza, but now I'm just not feeling like he has the ability to do that because he is scared of those cards coming off the top.
Ragnaros picked up from Pini now.
Oh, he's going to go face. Are we going to see the Rag? We are. And oh my god, this could be huge. He definitely wants to hit the Dr. Boom or face. We'll see what he's going to hit. This could be a game-deciding Ragnaros. And the moment of truth.
Oh my
no!
gosh, he hits Dr. Boom.
He hits the Dr. Boom.
That is
that could be it.
Unbelievable. I don't really see a way that Alchemist is getting out of this
no.
at this point.
I think that's it, man. I mean, we have to see how the bombs roll. We have to see how the bombs roll. Because if the bombs roll double 4 on something, the dream is still alive.
He's got to get the right hits on it right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to have to be a Gromosh going down. He's got to see how the bombs go.
All right, so if he runs a bomb into Alexstrasza or Ragnaros, he gets a 4 on whichever minion he didn't attack.
Yeah.
Repeats that. He can Gorehowl 1, arm up to go to 4.
Yeah. That's going to be, we'll see. I mean, it's got to be the bombs and see where they go. Okay, so it is going to be 2.
Oh.
So now I feel like you have to hit. You can't even kill it even if you hit the Rag.
There's no way to kill it anymore without using
the low roll.
Without using Gromosh or something. I mean, he can still, in theory, stay alive here. He's just got to get the right roll on this boom bot.
Yep, let's see it. I think you go Rag since it's already lower, but maybe it doesn't even matter. 6, and it's going to go face.
It goes straight to the dome.
Oh, no.
Yep. So this is pretty much going to spell the end for Alchemist. He's got a couple of cards maybe that he can draw to work with it. Maybe he has a second Crusher.
Never mind. Fireworks is going to do it.
Yep, there you go.
That is going to be it.
Wait. Hang on. He's at 17 still. So he's actually got to get the right ragged.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Of course. Bouncing blades. Doesn't have blades.
Wow, we're just going to go straight for...
Why didn't he play the bouncing blade? He had a bouncing blade. He could have played that.
Well, the bouncing blade can kill your own minion, too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Never mind. Yeah.
But what's more surprising to me is if he just attacks face there,
and then,
if the rag hits either the face or the shield maiden, he still ends up being in it.
Yeah.
Alchemixt, though, he picks up a shield slam, so he can fend off the Alexstrasza, but then he has no way to fend off the Ragnaros. He's just going to take too much damage if he chooses to use a weapon. I mean, this is the end of the game. He hasn't quite lost yet, but the game is basically over. You know what? He can still kind of stay alive here if he uses Grommash to. Okay, he's just going to go ahead and concede, and he just too much to fight through. He's used too many of his resources. Pini able to really leverage everything in that game, and I think one of the big turning points for him is when he got such big value out of the Sylvanas.
Yeah, the Sylvanas was absolutely massive. Plus, he was the one who got the big game hunter to be able to take down another minion as well. So, I mean, being able to get the value from the big game hunter plus that Sylvanas turn was both pretty huge. And then his Ragnaros also took out the Dr. Boom, which, like, those couple of turns were incredibly big for Pini. And Pini now is up, man. He is up 2-1.
2-1.
Yeah, pretty commanding position to be in for sure. I mean, Dr. Boom just not quite getting the job done in this game. Still an extremely good card, but he was just too far behind at that point. He'd used too many resources, and Pini had been able to make such great use out of everything that everything really rolled his way.
I don't know. Do you think he's going to be able to turn it around?
He definitely has to have a win here, though. His back's against the wall.
How do you think that pairs up against the Warrior, though?
Well, I don't. You know, it's kind of tough. It's open-ended to say. Warrior's always one of those classes where it can kind of beat anything, and that's why it's so strong. It doesn't always rely on Fiery War Axe. In some matchups, it does. But a lot of times, it can just recover the board state because, again, Shield Maiden gave it such a big mid-game swing. It's just really depends on how these draws work out and seeing if Pini can match everything together. If he's playing another control deck, that could be a problem for him. Again, Iron Juggernaut, really good in the control matchups, pretty poor in the aggro matchups, though.
Alchemist actually was crushing in that first game. And then the last two have been pretty convincing for Pini. So, I mean, going forward, we talked about his last result. He was able to get second at Heroes of the Cards #4 that he just came off of. So maybe a little bit of a confidence boost for him there. And we'll see if he's going to be able to take down Alchemist. All right, so it is going to be Hunter coming out as the final deck here for Alchemist. He's going to have to win 2 straight with it. And we might be seeing some of that Robo Hunter, man. He has the Clockwork Gnome in there. Decent opening hand, not the dream that you're looking for, not the Undertaker start.
Sure. But still, I mean, not a bad opener by any means. There's
a
lot of damage that could potentially come out here.
Definitely so. Cruel Task to answer is definitely pretty nice, though.
That's it's 2 of those aggro matchups in a row with the Cruel Taskmaster to really answer what's going on. Well, I'm sorry, with the Cruel Taskmaster answer what's going on. Mm-hmm. And Alchemist, he's got some stuff that he's putting together right now, but this game is already, to me, looking pretty rough for him. He's got a lot of on-curve plays, but that's already been disrupted.
Yeah, the slam, plus the Cruel Task to fall out. I mean, it's definitely
and he draws an Explosive Trap with a Mad Scientist in his hand. That's pretty much the opposite of what he wanted.
Do you think he's just going to weapon up then?
Yeah, well, he's got to figure out a way to start getting some damage rolling here.
Yeah, it's got to be.
This is the matchup it felt like he was trying to avoid. He may also feel like he's got to help try to get some value out of his minions, some repetitive damage. So attacking this Cruel Taskmaster is certainly not an unreasonable play by any means.
No, not at all. How do you feel about Armor Smith versus Acolyte? I mean, Acolyte fitting the curve, but obviously kind of being traded away a little bit easier. The Silence is actually not so bad to answer that, but that time just going to come down, and I mean, it's definitely not looking like the absolute best situation here for Alchemist.
Yeah, this is a matchup I think that he wanted to try to avoid. And when he has Explosive Trap in here, I think also in his mulligan that we saw, he mulliganed away Wolf Rider or an Arcane Golem. Mm-hmm. So this is like dedicated to like really trying to pressure your opponent out of the game instead of trying to like seize control and really go from there. But he's been already backed in the corner of having to try to seize control early on in this game, and so he's really working against what his kind of traditional game plan would be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you're playing with Arcane Golems and things like that, you have them in there to kind of finish it off. You want to be consistently keeping the pressure on, having your opponent on the back foot and kind of using that as like an execute, almost like a replacement of Leroy and everything. So he definitely is already on the back foot. We'll see how he's going to go. He did draw a Glaive Zuka, but not that helpful just now.
It's Glaives.
It's awesome.
Yeah, at this point, he's going to start rolling out some. He's got to start getting the damage going here. If you attack that Acolyte, it's just so much of being committed to keeping control over the board there. Like, I think you just have to sacrifice the extra card and be okay with it. You know, you're not trying to play the long game. You're trying to actually finish your opponent as soon as you can.
That's definitely nice to be able to pick up that fiery war axe there. The explosive trap could actually deal some damage here a little bit, you know, so it wouldn't be too bad. We'll see what trap he's actually going to get.
Sequencing here is really important too, by the way, because if he'd gotten a freezing trap off that Mad Scientist, he wouldn't have actually been able to pick off the 2/1 Mad Scientist with
that's
the
true.
Armor Smith. So important sequencing here. Look at what trap he got here. It's another explosive trap. And so we saw the second Mad Scientist didn't actually fetch a trap. So he's got 2 explosive traps in his deck, and that's it. There's no freezing trap. There's no snake trap.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's just 2 explosive. Well, he's just going for face.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does. Shield Maiden going to be...
Wow.
Oh,
and
God, Harrison Jones.
Picked up. He's going to take out this Eagle Horn bow.
Oh, with 2 charges as well.
Oh, my gosh.
That's so brutal.
Is a huge turn for Pini right now.
Yep, Harrison's going to come down. He's going to be able to get that double draw. And, oh, God, Alchemixt has just got to get that sick feeling in his stomach when you see this come down, man.
Oh, my gosh. 2 extra cards picked up. He's got 2 shield blocks and a shield maiden in his hand. You know, I don't want to call him early. Oh, picks up Animal Companion. Okay, well, there you go. This is what he needs to stay in, and he rolls a Huffer from it.
Wow. And he's going to use the Glaive Zuka, it looks like, to trade in there with the double spider. So, honestly, is he just going to go all
he's got to go all. I mean, he's all in this point. He's got the kill command.
Wow,
he's got Glaive Zuka. He's got hero power and explosive trap.
He could actually kill him here. I mean, the thing is, there's still the Shield Maiden. He has Shield Maiden. He could Shield Maiden Shield Slam out the Huffer if he wants to.
Yep,
I feel like that's the play.
He's got to stem the bleeding right now.
Yeah, but I mean, he still does have the double shield block in hand. And the Spectral Spiders don't count as a beast, so Kill Command is only 3 damage right now.
This is where stuff like Wolf Rider and Arcane Golem really start to pick up some pieces too. Just every extra point of damage is what Alchemist needs right now. He's going to need to draw some gas over the course of the next couple turns, but that Huffer
if he draws
roll,
if he draws a beast next turn, I mean, it's going to be pretty scary.
Yeah, that Harrison on that 6 extra damage, that was basically lethal right
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got these 2 shield blocks, so he's going to be able to like really keep his head, you know, kind of safe for a couple turns. But again, if Alchemist continues to draw gas, this could still be rough.
Yeah.
Loatheb getting picked up. Yeah, I actually like using the Loatheb here too now because it prevents any double kill command shenanigans. Clockwork Gnome's not what he wanted to see though.
No, not at all. Thankfully for him, I mean, the explosive trap at least will take out 2 of those minions, so that's something. But, you know, he definitely was not looking for that. Another shield maiden. He could shield maiden and shield block here even. And like
20 extra points of life.
I feel like that would actually be a pretty good play.
He's picked up this game so far.
He's going to go Alex Strauss.
Alex Strauss himself too. Yeah. So there's 10. So right now he's picked up about 20 extra.
I think
points
this is game,
and he's got 10 more.
I don't really see any way that he can win now.
He needed something else other than that Clockwork Gnome that turn. That was like he couldn't have stumbled once the rest of the game, and I think at that point it's just kind of stumbled out of control.
Yeah, I mean there's still an extra 10 armor in his hand, and it's just like
so much.
Yeah. Does he wait? 13, no, he doesn't. But still, I mean, I think you can just. Shield Maiden after.
I mean, he can go up to.
He can do whatever you want.
Effectively 21 health this turn.
Yeah.
And kill the Arcane Golem in the process. Wow, that one Clockwork Gnome turn. He needed like another Animal Companion there.
Yeah. But it's not going to be the case for him. Well played is called there by Alchemist. He's got to know it's over at this point, and he does concede. And Pini is going to be able to take it 3-1. Over Alchemist, who is now going to be out of the tournament. The control warrior really doing work for Pini. It's going to get him 3 straight wins.
Something that's important to note is just how much he utilized his swing cards in this match. Like he got maximum value out of Sylvanas basically by taking in a Ragnaros from his opponent. He Harrison Jones twice in this match. One time was against Hunter where he blew up 2 charges of an Eagle Horn bow with it. And then also
the Death Bite, which gave him also like the draw from his own Acolyte, Armor Smith proc as well. Like he got so much value from that.
Do you think he should have taken that Acolyte out early? I mean, he was so ahead on card draw there.
Yeah, it's tough to say. His deck is obviously very focused on dealing damage. So you know, sort of what happened was he just got disrupted in the early game. Turn 1 Cruel Taskmaster, slam on the Loot Hoarder, and that really just threw a wrench in things. So after that, he had to figure out a way to kind of stabilize his board position so he could start getting repetitive damage out. And I think on the turn where he had the 3-point Mad Scientist went for face, I think that was the turn where he really kind of had to take a stand and really go for it.
No, I agree. I think that was the right choice. And honestly, like every armor draw that he had in his deck, he got. You know what I mean? He had double shield mid and he had double shield block. I mean, with a little bit different draw there with the Huffer, he could have actually had that game. He had Kill Command in hand. He had him down to, I believe, 6 HP at one point, something like that.
Yeah, if he had just drawn the beast, he would have had him.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like if he drew another Animal Companion, like you said, on the Clockwork Gnome turn, or even if he drew like the Arcane Golem into another one, something like that. So I mean, definitely Clockwork Gnome was not the draw he wanted, but there was some other dead draws he could have obviously picked up, like an Undertaker or something at that turn. So
it's amazing how Warrior can really turn things around. I mean, to be that low at health and then get Shield Maiden now that they have that card plus Shield Block, I mean, that's so much armor. They just rack up there.
You just have 10 extra health and it provides a threat at the same time. It's like, really? 6 mana 5/5 with 5 armor? It's like, it kind of feels like Priestess of Elune to me.
Yeah, definitely a really strong card. But either way, it is going to be a 3-1 win for Pini over Alchemixt, so he's going to be moving forward in the bracket.
Yep, so I was wrong in my prediction, and
Zale
was right in his. So, I'm 0-1 today, and Zale's 1-0. I think something we need to keep count for.
Okay, we can.
Maybe if I lose my predictions for this weekend, I can shave my beard or something.
Okay.
Yep, but if you lose, maybe you got to do something a little bit embarrassing too.
Like what?
Shave your head.
Oh God.
All right, so one shaved head and one shaved beard. All right. We will be back just a few minutes